Hey there. Thank you so much for listening to Something Super Spiritual. My name is Jeffrey Peck, and I am a psychic medium. If you are seeking conversation with loved ones on the other side, or discussion about spirituality, life after life, and anything in between, join me as we discuss all things spirit. We are collectively experiencing a spiritual awakening right now and recognizing that we are much, much more than we once believed. We don't die, and life doesn't end. We are eternal spiritual beings living in this crazy 3D virtual world of existence. Let's talk about it. Hi, Susan. Welcome to Something Super Spiritual. It's so great to see you again today.
I'm so glad to be here. I can't even begin to tell you.
Oh my gosh, we have so much to talk about. So, you know what? Let's just get right into it. Susan and I met each other in May of 2015, I think. Isn't that right?
Exactly.
We
Yep.
met at the East West bookstore in Mountain View,
Yep.
California. We were both there to see Thomas John,
We
and
were.
we just kind of like sat next to each other and just immediately clicked.
Yep.
So, back then you were teaching. I think you were just on the precipice of retiring.
I had retired. I was substituting for
Right.
6. Yes, you're right.
And then after your retirement, spirit came a knocking. And you just went all in. You went all in. And I love
No.
what you've done with the Akashic Records, with your card readings, with your yoga nidras, your past life regression, you've kind of tapped in and touched a little bit all over your astrology. Oh my gosh, your astrology. Yeah, so
You
let's
forgot
talk
the
about
goddess. You
it.
forgot the
Well,
goddess.
that's because that's what you're doing now. So yeah, we're gonna get to the goddess part, but
Oh, yeah.
the evolution, your evolution in this has just been so beautiful to watch
Oh.
and witness, and I love it. I love every minute of it. So talk to us about that journey for yourself,
Okay.
and how, one thing touched on to the next and the next, and then here you are, created this amazing goddess course, this 12-month program that we'll get to. But yeah, so start from the beginning.
Okay. So I was interested in a lot of it from way before I retired. But being a public school teacher and, you know, having those responsibilities and also coming out of the closet, so to speak,
Yep.
was not exactly something that I felt like doing. So I pursued things, but it was more about reading books and going to workshops. It was not as much about me doing things for other people. So I retired in 2014. And then from there, I kept thinking, okay, now what? And it's not like the now what happens like that. It doesn't happen like that. It happens when spirit's ready to give it to you or when you're ready to receive it. So I started with the Akashic Records in 2014. I was at the gym and I was listening to a podcast. Here we are, a podcast,
Yeah.
right? And Linda Howe was talking about the Akashic Records. And I was like, I think I've heard of this, but I didn't I didn't know it was as accessible to lay people as she made it, which exactly was her role. So I started going to classes with her. And from there, I had another teacher and then another teacher and then another teacher. And I kept like you know how it is. You do mediumship and your skills are developed along the way.
Yeah.
It's not like you're there,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I learned a lot. And my last gig, I left and I ended up doing research and we're still doing it. we're still working on a project to be continued with this friend of mine. We both left the final teacher, realizing that we indeed had enough. We didn't have to keep looking for more and more teachers.
Right.
So that's that piece. And then through you, I believe it was, you were telling me about Collette Baron Reid and your experience with her, knowing her. And I ended up going to Oracle school in, I believe that was 2017. I think I was still in the Bay Area. We were living there, and then we moved to Oregon. And then this other piece happened which led me to meeting you. I lost my youngest brother to suicide in May, right before I met you.
Mm-hmm.
And I developed this insatiable curiosity about the other side. And that curiosity has never gone away. Although I never really wanted to be a medium. I wanted to kind of like help people individually who had lost.
Yeah.
And then this was Akashic Records meets the afterlife. And I developed processes for people to connect with their loved ones on the other side. I was also a yoga teacher for 20 years in the Bay Area. And the Yoga Nidra happened around the same time. And looking back now that, we're talking about it, I can't believe I did all this stuff in such a short
Yeah. So, okay, before we get too far ahead, can you please describe Akashic Records for those who this might be just a new term?
I would love to. Okay. It's kind of my main gig, my main passion. So the Akashic Records is etheric. It's not something that we can hold in our hand, and it's not something that your average person believes in, because it sounds almost like too out there. So basically, when you're born, you have record keepers, just like guides, and they keep track of your life, like kind of like, like a scribe. Okay. And what the records are is it's everything that ever, well, on a personal level, it's everything that you ever were, are, and potentials, I use that word carefully, or what could be.
Okay.
But that's just a little teeny weeny part of it.
Right.
Like everything has a record. Animals have records. Sacred sites have records. Your house has a record. The trees have records. So it's like everything is available if you are interested in it and pursue it and have the right intention, so to speak.
Gotcha.
I hope that's enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. So why then, what would somebody come to you for with respect to the Akashic Records?
Well, pretty much everything.
Okay.
I mean, except let's say you were in a relationship and it broke up, and you wanted to spy on your former partner. You can't get into their records. But anything related to you, like I've gone into the records of the United States of America to find out what's going to happen because of this event. I've done that a number of times.
Interesting.
Yes, because like I have an interest.
Do you have an example?
Yeah, of course. But I hope this won't offend anybody, but I'll say it anyway. Okay. So when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, I was devastated. Devastated. She was a short little Jewish woman like me, and progressive, and, stuck up for the little guy. And I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen now? So I waited a few weeks. And because, well, this isn't exactly of a country, but it sort of is. I actually asked if I could open her records, and she was like, well, yeah, I'll talk to you. Sure. So a little bit like mediumship, but it's a different way of getting there.
Sure.
And I said, what's going to happen now? What's going to happen? And oh, I know when it was. It was right after the Roe v. Wade situation began in May. And she kept saying, well, ultimately we're going to, it's going to be okay, but it's not going to be easy to get to the place where it's going to be okay. And I guess that's one example. There have been other times when I wanted to know about my property. That was a homework assignment in a class I was taking. Who lived here? What native people lived here? What did they do here? Is there anything I need to do to clear the land? So I opened the records of my house.
Wow.
Of my
Okay.
land, actually.
Sure.
Of my land. So those are just two, but it's endless, really.
What did you learn about your property?
Well, I learned that there were native peoples here and that they were here probably in about the 1700s. And then when the settlers came in the 1800s, they put them in areas to themselves. But it was a holy ground. And there is a Seventh-day Adventist school down the road that actually was part of a group that we were part of, but they built it because of the holiness of the land, because it meant a lot to them
Ah,
too.
okay. Okay.
And then, there have been other things that I've asked about. I've actually asked about the origin of certain sacred sites and, like how do the big blocks get to Machu Picchu, like just stuff.
Right. So when you're doing this and you've opened the records,
Yeah.
what's that look like for you? Like how
It's
do you
pretty
s-
interesting.
do you sit
Yeah.
with a pen and write, or do you type, or do you channel it into a recorder, or like how?
Perfect question, because
Okay.
I have evolved
Yeah.
into something that's really easy. And I didn't do that in the beginning. In the beginning, it was self healing, it was ancestral karma from people that were in Russia and were persecuted and killed, and, all of this stuff. And I had anxiety about things. And so I just got downloads about what it was, what it is, who I am. I wrote everything on one of those yellow pads,
Yeah.
right? But that's really your hand. And what I got, there's a really big difference in the amount of time it takes, because writing
Mhm.
is slower than dictating. And eventually, and I don't even know how long ago that was, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, I got that voice recorder app on your phone, and then I got this really lots of storage iPad. I mean, like, I don't know, 64, whatever they call them. And, or maybe it was 106. I don't know. It was a lot. So now I basically, I go in the records, and I think you asked, what's it like when you go in? You asked that as well.
Mhm.
When I touch on that. Initially, I used to see things like when I did a lot of readings for people, I would get a visual, like a little girl on a swing, which symbolized freedom or something, or, like rabbits running around your yard, fertility. I mean, whatever it is, I would validate it with the person, just to kind of say, do you, did you have rabbits in your yard when you were a kid? And they said, oh yeah. And you know how that goes. It's a
Yeah. Yeah.
little bit like what you do. Okay. So anyway, getting back to the recording thing, I now record everything, and I listen to it when it comes up in an internal question I have. So there was a period of time when I was communicating with my father on the other side, and we kind of completed the thing that we were doing, and then I deleted those. But I usually have about 80 to 100 recordings that are accessible. And sometimes I started doing, there's prayers and blessings, And now I invite all kinds of ascended masters in, and I record those invocations so that when I sit down to do it, I don't go, oh my gosh, where did I put this? You know how you go. I don't know if you have those little voices inside of you. I didn't bring this in the room. You know, so that's pretty much how it goes.
Interesting. Okay. So you were doing readings for people,
Yes, I still do.
accessing their records,
Yeah,
and then that evolved into meeting people who have crossed over
yeah,
in the records, having
yeah.
a conversation with them, which is fascinating.
It's
And
even better. Do you want to hear a quick little
yeah,
thing?
of course. Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't know how this was going to go, but I decided one day to have a family meeting because I have a lot of people over there. Okay. So I I like reserved a room basically, and I kind of gave them messages, you know, be in this room at this time. And we had a round table conversation where everybody checked in and talked about what they were doing on the other side to me. And part of the reason why I did there was one that didn't have a reason, but recently I would like all of them to communicate with my mother who has dementia, just to keep telling her that it's okay. Whenever you're ready, we'll be here. We'll give you a party. Everything's okay, like that.
Yeah.
So, so that was fun.
That's amazing. That's truly amazing. I mean, it is mediumship with the twist. I mean, just meeting at the records. Okay, so then from that, then you started to tap into the divine feminine.
I think I've done that. Well, that's even. I mean, I've sort of had that hanging around me since 1995, way before you met me. But I was in and out with it, and I had a visitation from the goddess Isis. You might know this story. I can't remember if you know this story or not, but I was driving down Highway 280 in the Bay Area on a rainy, like February day with rainbows everywhere. And all of a sudden I heard a voice that said, go to the Rosicrucian Museum. It wasn't like, I'd like it if you go to the Rosicrucian Museum.
Okay.
And I was like, I didn't know what it was then, even though years later I did teach about ancient Egypt in middle school. And then I went there a lot. So I was in a women's group. I called her up, my leader, my teacher, and I said, what's going on? And she said, you're supposed to go there. There's something there for you. And I went, okay. So I drove, parked, walked in, and I'm like, I'm pretty left brain at this point. I'm not like completely into, what I'm into now, right? And there's nothing here. There's just all these like fat lady statues, yeah. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. And so I kept hearing her say, there's something there for you. So I saw a postcard of Nui, of I think her name is Nui. It's either that or Nephthys, who is Isis's twin, standing with 1 foot on one side of the Nile and her hands on the other, like just making a bridge. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I said, what? I said to the people at the desk, what's that? Oh, that's the movie that we're showing, all about, the Nile River and the goddesses. And I was like, okay, I'll go. So I went, I sat down. They started talking about the flooding of the Nile. I'm going to cry, of the flooding of the Nile. And they said, on July 19th, the Nile overflows in ancient Egypt. That's my birthday. I was like, what is going on? It was like, synchronicity.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like, okay, what's going on here? And then I went back to the front desk and they're starting to play a singer who I did not know at the time. Her name is Lorena McKennett. Do you know Lorena McKennett?
No.
Okay. She sings all about the goddess. And I'd never heard her before. I love the music. I bought the CD. I seen her in person, in concerts like 5 or 6 times since then. So that day I met Isis in the video, and I met Lorena McKennitt, and my life changed forever.
Boy, it sure did. That's an amazing synchronicity. Well, and starting out with the voice, telling you to,
Yeah. And
go
it's like,
now.
she does that. Now I've read, in my research for this class that I'm sort of teaching soon, I've read every book on her, and she just like appears. She just like talks, people that need her, people that maybe were priestesses with her in a past life or something. So yeah.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
you mentioned this course that you're teaching. What
Yeah.
more about that you'd like people to know?
Well, it's had a new iteration, which actually, can I segue into the card I pulled today?
Oh yeah, talk about the cards.
It's sort of is gonna be woven into what happened with the goddess class. Okay. So I have to
Okay.
put my okay. So my first thing when I saw this card was no way. And it's the death card.
Okay.
And the death, I was reminded internally, no, Susan, the death card is not the tower card. Right.
No. Mm-mm.
And so listen to this. It's when you pull this, it represents your capacity to change and transform at the deepest level. And by the way, the cards was for both of us, right?
Okay. Okay.
You are actively involved in an archetypical process of letting go of old patterns or relationships so that you can experience and express new parts of yourself. I was like, holy wow. Because I said, what did death and I need to know for today? And then it says, the changing expression of personal power and leadership in the world, the externalized expression of the internal emperor within us. And of course, this is the Thoth deck, which is Egyptian. Thoth the scribe, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so you asked me about the goddess class.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wasn't planning on doing this. It found me. And I happened to have had my first major surgery a year ago, this coming March. So it was like 10 months ago. And I was going in the records, and I synchronistically found a portal called the Divine Feminine Collective in the Akashic Records. So you can go there. It's kind of like, sit down and talk to a goddess, right?
Okay.
Kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? So I was going in there, and one day during this time, I think it was right before my surgery, and they said, we want you to write a class for us. And I was like, what? A class? Okay. And then you don't say no. When you get visited, right?
Right.
You just don't say no because it's spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like, I don't know what to do. And they said, we picked you. And I was like, why did you pick me? And they said, because you write classes all the time. You've written classes. Because I've been a teacher like my whole life.
Yeah.
So I started doing it. And then all these downloads came in. How will it be presented? What are you going to add to it? And all these things that I knew how to do suddenly became part of the class. Like you talked about yoga nidra. So that became, it's like the name Meet the Goddess came from various visits and talking to. And then I used a pendulum to pick the 12 goddesses, one per month. And I had everything pretty okay. I mean, I spent 7 or 8 months researching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing. This is why the death card is working, okay? Because the Rolling Stones song, you can't always get what you want, but you get what you need.
Yes. All too well.
Right? Right. So that's what happened to me. I thought I was going to have like 25 people. And basically, I had one maybe and one yes for the whole year. And I just went, it ain't happening in the same way. And I still don't know why, because it was just 2 weeks ago. I pretty much got the death card, you know,
Total
that,
transformation.
right? And and then I'm hearing a voice right now that's saying nothing is wasted.
Right.
Nothing. I don't think anything we learn or do or we think is failure
Mhm.
is wasted. So I have one student. I'm really excited. She's a friend of mine, and we're just going to do one-on-ones. And there's a little bit less unknown to that because I know her well,
Mhm.
and can make classes short, and anything she wants to know, she'll get. And so it's pretty cool, actually. And I can go hiking again and, go to the beach again because I wasn't doing anything except this class. But yeah, so
So
yeah,
the death card signifying changes and transformation is being represented in the changes of the way this class is playing out.
bingo. Yeah.
Is it a
But
class? Is it a class that people can join anytime, or is it like open enrollment for like X whatever months, or is it?
no, I I wanted to make it real easy and doable with people's lives. So there originally was a year-long option that they could pay for in advance, but because I kind of got rid of that, and because I think people got confused, and then there is a single class option. So let's say you wanted to know about goddesses, but you couldn't take in all the information that there was because there's a lot. And there's also the idea of creating altars and working with her during the month. And if you don't have time, can you keep up? All those things
Sure.
that.
So
So yeah.
when you say working with them, like in meditation, working with them, getting to
Okay.
know them,
Yeah, all of that. Like,
energetically.
I'm going to probably include basics of how to open the Akashic Records
Hmm?
and how to open the records of that goddess. It's really not hard at all.
Yeah.
But people have to be committed to practicing, and if I'm pretty sure that whoever comes will be grateful for it or use it or not use it or whatever. Because there's things like there's a channeling that I did from every goddess in the records. There's a question set where we go in and interview her with questions related to the world as it is now, which is really cool. And then she speaks back through me or them if they've already learned how to do it. And then they can get, or we could split up. They could go in, I could go in, then we compare what we got.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then the Yoga Nidra has a meet the goddess aspect to it. So,
Okay, before you go there, why don't
okay.
you tell people what Yoga Nidra is for
Okay,
those
this
who
is
might not
really
know
fun.
what that is?
Yeah, yeah. So it's much more popular now than it was when I first got trained. But Nidra in Sanskrit means sleep. Yoga is all about yoking, about connecting at a deep level, right? Like the yoga that we know is the yoga of physical body, but there's all
Right.
kinds of yoga, right? So Yoga Nidra is a healing modality that has been used with all kinds of people who have, serious diseases, people who are in jail. And then it's kind of started out like that before it became in the public eye in this country.
Okay.
Okay. In India, it's used quite a bit. So it's a guided visualization that you are led through, going through different parts of the body. And it goes so quickly that the monkey mind can't start thinking about, oh, my dog's okay. Did I walk or, what am I going to have for dinner? And you have to become fully present because it's like, okay, relax your left shoulder. Now your right shoulder. Now your chest. Now your belly, go through the whole body. So eventually you're in a really deep state. And there's all these little small visualizations and colors and things that can be added to it. But what so that's yoga nidra. And usually people get really relaxed.
Yeah, I loved it when you would practice with me. To me it was like hypnosis meets meditation.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and it's absolutely wonderful.
Mm.
And so how that is done in the class is there's a point where I take them to a place depending on who the goddess is. Like if it's like there's Yemaya, who I'm actually not teaching because that shifted, but she was all about being in the water, being in the ocean. So I would have them go into the ocean. Yemaya comes up, meets them, and speaks with them and gives them some kind of sign or symbol or amulet or something so that you really feel that you have met with the goddess.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like the Athena one, you go to the Parthenon in
Ah,
Greece. Just that stuff that I just kind of got or made up or got through the records. Yeah.
it's awesome.
So, yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a journey.
So yeah, it's just really, we all have our different path, our different journeys. And yet in those differences, there are so many similarities.
Oh,
The
sure.
calling, and where, and the progression and how it evolves.
Oh, yeah.
And I love for you your dedication. I mean, to write a course that it spans over a year, and it took you 7 or 8 months to write this whole course. And for those that have that deep connection with the divine feminine, the priestess and the goddess, and all it's awesome. It's very cool. I love that.
Even if you don't have a connection, I mean, just to go in and take one class about, let's say, Lakshmi. Lakshmi is
Lakshmi.
abundance and financial freedom and love and all these beautiful things that to even know that she exists and that you could talk to her and chant her mantra. And there's a whole other story I have about money with Lakshmi my last year of teaching, but you know I mean, and I wasn't really looking for it. I just went, I'll sign up for that. That's a 1 month immersion. I can do that. Just chant the mantra every day, piece of cake.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I mean, even just curiosity, like, why is Athena a badass? Right?
And she
So
is.
she is, and so is Artemis. So the stories are really great, and some people really like Greek mythology, and they
Mhm.
might think, oh, okay, I'm going to study about Artemis and Athena in this way, because the way that they probably know it is just up here. This is who she is. This is what she did, rather
Right.
than she meets you.
In the
That
heart.
makes in the heart. Yeah.
Lovely. So where can people find you? On social
Okay,
media?
I have a website. It's called susanbrochin.com. It's very easy. That's my name. And on the website is the new version of the course, which rather than 12 goddesses, I believe there are 7 or 6. But the the big three are Isis, Mother Mary, and Kuan Yin, and they each have 2 sessions
Okay.
that people could take just one or both because there's so much more written about them than the others.
Right, right. And then your other services that people can look for?
Yeah, I do a really basic what is your astrology chart. it's very basic. It's not like I'm like a certified, I mean, I've taken a lot of classes, but it's a little too left brain for me. I do it for personal empowerment, just so that you know, oh, that's going on in this guy, that's going on here.
Yeah.
And I so do that for people. And it's more like, because I'm a teacher by trade, it's more like, what do the houses mean? You know, what do the signs mean? And how does it all fit together, rather than there's a, you know, a square there that means yada yada.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
squares, the trines,
that's not my, there's that. And I do basic Akashic Records readings, which could be anything, you know, like about a job, about what, you know, what am I supposed to be doing in my life? I just got fired, or,
I was
you
just
know,
going to
what's
say
going
a
on?
shift in life,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Oh, you know, what's going on with my relationship? You know, oh, I mean, one other thing that I didn't mention is I sort of do animal communication with my animals, but we can do, like, we can bring in the deceased animal, you know, in the Akashic Records, because they have records too. So there's that. You know, there's
Right.
healing for those kinds of things, you know, even a read on your property, or, you know, selling a home, or why am I getting sick all the time? You know, what am I learning
Right.
from that? I mean, it's endless. And, you know, it's usually like, depending on it's the questions are what determines the kinds of responses,
Sure.
because yeah, we have to come with them, and they have to be really kind of specific in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like we're not going to ask, when am I going to meet my soulmate, basically, you
Right.
know, which people, you know, do. And because
Well, more than
we
likely, there's a lot of work to be done on the inside
exactly
before that
right.
happens.
Yeah. So a better question would be, I would love to meet somebody that I could be with for a long period of time. What do I need to do within myself to create that?
Yeah. And you guys, I have experienced many times Susan's Akashic record readings, the yoga nidras, the cards,
Cards.
many times. I mean, and it's been, she's amazing. The information that comes out of the record, and the evidence that like stamps this experience, like, oh my gosh, yes, it's awesome.
Thank you.
So highly recommend looking up Susan. Are you on Facebook? People can find
Oh
you.
yeah, I I have my own Facebook page. I don't have a business page because I never thought to go to it, so I
Okay.
just deleted it. But I do have, if anybody is interested in the Meet the Goddess group, I have a lovely group, and I'm now not advertising my class as much as just talking about crystals and the goddess, and talking about a lot of other things that people might be interested
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. It's lovely.
Thank you.
It's lovely. Well, I want to thank you from the bottom of my toes for being here with me.
I want to thank you so much for having me, because I love what you're doing,
Thank you.
and how you are so present for the people that you speak to, and get their stories, and, you know, people get to know the people you're interviewing. And yeah, and something super spiritual is so many different things, right?
Yeah. It's everything.
It is everything.
Mm.
And I'm honored to be there and to be part of it.
Well,
It's
thank
just
you. Thank you.
fabulous.
I am too, to have this with you.
Big hug.
All right. Thank you very much for being here, my love. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you again for listening to the Something Super Spiritual podcast. If you know someone who would enjoy this episode, please do share it with a friend. For show notes, links, and to purchase a mediumship reading, my website is somethingsuperspiritual.com. You can also easily subscribe and follow the show on your favorite app, sign up for my newsletter for bonus content, And to keep the conversation going, you can easily join the Facebook community. It's all right there at the website, somethingsuperspiritual.com. Signing off for now, namaste.